It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the films of August 23rd, 2002. With 4 films to look at today, we got a lot to get to, so let's just jump into it. And it was not too extravagant of a weekend overall. In fact, the biggest new release that we're about to talk about here only grossed $5.5 million in its opening weekend, so it was not a busy weekend for this particular weekend in general here. But the movies, some of them are good, some of them not so much. And this is one I think gets unfairly criticized. The late Matthew Perry with Elizabeth Hurley and Bruce Campbell and Reginald Hudlin's Serving Sarah. Matthew Perry plays a process server who's given the assignment to serve a British socialite, played by Elizabeth Hurley, with divorce papers, but is persuaded to serve her husband instead so that she can get a larger portion of his money in the divorce. And like I said, this film did not do very well at the box office. It was actually panned by critics when it came out, but it's one of those movies that I kind of look back on and think to myself, especially since after Matthew Perry passed away, I think this movie is actually a lot better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. It's interesting to see Reginald Hudlin do something a little bit outside of his norm, not doing another movie like A House Party or Boomerang, and I like this movie a lot. I was really impressed with how much I enjoyed this movie more when I watched it again recently. It was a movie that was just kind of like, at first, it was alright, but I didn't think it was that as bad as people made it out to be, but I've seen more and more now, more elements to it that I really do like about the film in general. I think it has a strong cast overall, not just with Perry, Hurley, and Campbell, but also Amy Adams, Vincent Pastore, Cedric the Entertainer involved in the cast, and it knows it's not meant to be taken that seriously. It knows it's supposed to be a little bit too over the top for its own good, and I thought it was fine for what it is. I think definitely after Matthew Perry passed away, I did start to realize more and more that he did make a lot of decent movies that weren't as memorable as they should have been. But, he was putting his all into it. Even if the scripts were not that great in general, this one's kind of on that same level here. But I found more and more to appreciate about this movie because of him and the cast all around him. I think they make this material work as well as it should. And sometimes the jokes can be really funny. There are a couple of legitimately good jokes overall that I thought worked pretty well. And it kind of breezes by. It's not a film that really goes on for too long. You don't really notice it as it goes, but it is, once you get out of there, you really feel like that you haven't been there for too long overall. It comes in, you go in, you go out. It feels perfectly fine. You feel like you've seen something pretty decent. Nothing that's going to be considered a classic by any means necessary, but a film that I think could honestly be considered much better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. And Serving Sarah, I think, definitely is one of those movies that's definitely a lot better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. So that's Serving Sarah. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, Wesley Snipes and Ving Rhames in the prison boxing drama Undisputed. In Undisputed, you have George Chambers, played by Ving Rhames, who is a top-ranked heavyweight boxer. However, Chambers has his world turned upside down when he's accused of rape and sent to prison. Upon his arrival, he hears talk about Monroe Hutchin, played by Wesley Snipes, who is the top-ranked prison boxing champ 10 years running. Immediately, there is bad blood, with Chambers not wanting to be second to no one, which leads to a lunchroom fight between the men, finding it will be a good way to make money for fellow convict Emmanuel Mendy Ripstein, played by Peter Falk, setting up a prison boxing match between the two men to decide who's the real undisputed champ. In addition, you have Michael Rooker, Fisher Stevens, Master P, and John Cena among the cast in here. It's kind of basically the boxing equivalent to The Longest Yard, but for Walter Hill, whose last movie was completely screwed over big time by MGM and Francis Ford Coppola with Supernova, this is a nice return to form for him. Yeah, it's a film that's pretty much the equivalent to something like The Longest Yard, but at the same time, it does a lot of different things that are so unique and so different that I think it is another kind of underrated gem of a film. It's a film that really, I think, deserves a lot more attention than it gets, and I'm glad to see that it has found success down the road to where it has somewhat of a cult following to it. They've even made direct-to-video sequels, but of course with those direct-to-video sequels, they're not usually going to be that good, but you do get a really good film here. I like Wesley Snipes and Ving Rhames. I think they work off each other very well. I like the acting overall in this movie. It's cool to see Peter Falk kind of playing against type. He's not playing the Columbo character like we're used to seeing him. Like, it's a film that's really, really good. Like, I like the fight sequences. I think it's very well done. It's a pretty interesting concept overall here that does try to distance itself from other movies that are similar to it. And I think for the most part it works pretty well. It's not one of Walter Hill's best movies, but it's definitely a nice return to form after something like Supernova kind of dropped him off a cliff a little bit. But that is undisputed. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Al Pacino in Simone. Honestly, I'd probably take back what I said before, because so far most of the movies we've covered this week have been really good, and I've yet to see one bad movie here. This is another one that, again, was not well received when it came out. I got mostly mixed reviews when it came out. Did decent business. It wasn't a complete flop overall, but I think they expected a lot more, considering that this came from the same man that gave us Gattaca and also The Truman Show. You have Al Pacino as a fading director who creates a virtual actress who's played by the director's wife, Andrew Nicole, his wife Rachel Roberts, to star in his films and the attempts he makes to make her non-presence a secret as she becomes more and more famous. So it's basically playing with the idea of a virtual actor basically taking over the world, which, this was something that is pretty much clearly ahead of its time, because we're pretty much doing that nowadays when we really think about it. But yeah, I think this was just coming out of the time when this movie really did not have, the idea is everyone thought the idea of virtual actors being put in there was kind of put to rest when Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within the previous summer failed to make a traction at the box office. But here, it's a movie that I think really was ahead of its time, because now we have people who clearly are virtual actors. I mean, VTubers are one thing that come to mind here. Virtual reality is a big thing nowadays, and this was a movie that maybe doesn't have the same social commentary that something like The Truman Show or Gattaca does, but you could tell that it definitely was indeed ahead of its time. It's something that's very, very interesting on how it's handled. Al Pacino, I thought, was really good in the film. I also like this actress, Rachel Roberts, who unfortunately hasn't really done a whole lot. I think they were expecting this to be like her big breakout role, and like I said, the film didn't do well enough for that to become a reality, but the film did pretty well overall. I think it was a really good film that really says a lot of things that we're talking about nowadays, like the idea of virtual reality, AI essentially taking over, and I thought it was a very good idea on how to handle this. Like, it's a very good film, a strong cast overall, just great direction, great writing, and yeah, it may not have the same, questionable things like you want to. There's like, what do I want to say here? It may not have the same ideas and questions that you may be asking yourself with something like The Truman Show or Gattaca, but it definitely has shown that this movie was clearly ahead of its time. Maybe came out too early for its own good, but I hope this one does get a bigger following in the years to come, because it clearly shows that we are indeed heading more into this direction as we're moving forward into the world of reality, and as they're trying to push AI and virtual reality to another level here. But definitely check out Simone. I highly recommend it. It's a criminally underrated film. Definitely a must-watch. So let's go ahead and wrap this up with the last movie we have here, Robin Williams starring in 1 Hour Photo. Just when you thought Death to Smoochie and Insomnia were completely against type for Robin Williams, hang on to your seat for this one, because this is easily the best movie he made in 2002, and it's definitely because he goes so against type in this movie, in a good way. He stars as a photo technician who develops an unhealthy obsession with a family to whom he has had long provided services. And there's been a lot of, and I think one of the criticisms for the movie, the positive criticisms for the movie, says that it will do for cameras what Psycho did for showers. Like, it's a movie that has a lot of comparisons to something like a Psycho movie, and it really works because Robin Williams is just putting his all into it. This is really a great performance that shows that Robin Williams is not just the typical funny guy we see all the time, which he's a great comedic actor, but movies like this are why he is so good as a dramatic actor, because he just plays this guy that that he's clearly doing a lot of wrong things, but you also feel sympathetic towards him because he is a very lonely person, and only a guy like Robin Williams can make a role like this work, even though you're clearly supposed to hate this guy on so many levels, especially for what he's doing. Great cast overall in this film. Colleen Nielsen, Michael Vartan from Alias, Gary Cole from Office Space, Eric LaSalle from ER, and written and directed by Mark Romanek, who later go on to direct stuff like The Wolfman, done a ton of music videos. I mean, this really is one of the best movies of 2002 and one of the best performances by Robin Williams by a long shot. It's very tense. It gets chilling at times. The visual look of the film is gorgeous. The cinematography by Jeff Cronenweth, is so well done. The music is very good. It feels very unique and stylish for its own good. It's a really good movie. I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen 1 Hour Photo and you're looking to see one of Robin Williams' most out there performances, this one's definitely worth it. Definitely check it out, 1 Hour Photo. You are doing yourself a huge disservice by not watching it. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We're heading into Labor Day weekend next time around, and I wish we had better movies, but unfortunately we only have one notable film here, and that is Fear.com. So, yeah, buckle yourself in for a doozy of an episode, because that movie clearly is not worthy of a full episode, but we're going to have to do it anyway, because I didn't see any other movies of noteworthiness to go with it. So stay tuned for my full-length review of Fear.com, because this is going to be one of those episodes that I'm going to be glad to get through tomorrow, and we'll do that on tomorrow's show. We'll get to the good stuff the next time, after that, though, hopefully. But, so yeah, that'll be for the next episode. But if you like what you saw, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Check out the previous episode. And don't forget to, I'm so confused on this now. I completely botched up the closing. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page. Check out the previous episodes. Then hit the like and subscribe button. There we go. I got it at that time. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. And until then, as always, take care.